So my name is Dr. Stacey Habergham-Mawson and I'm from the National Schools Observatory, part of Liverpool John Moores University in the UK. I'm going to do a short talk today on how we are trying to incorporate teaching sustainability through the platform of astronomy. So along with my colleague Dr. Emma Smith, we'll cover both of the discussion sessions today as well. So just a brief outline of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to just briefly describe, who we are, who the National Schools Observatory are, why we should incorporate talking about sustainability and climate science within our offering, how we should approach the topic, and then how we use the platform that we've created to actually get some of this information across. So first of all, in terms of who we are, so we're a UK-based public engagement schools outreach programme which is within the Astrophysics Research Institute, part of John Moores Uni. We have a mission which is to make the universe accessible to everyone, empowering them to know more and to do more. And the idea behind this is that we have astronomy as a platform to engage young people in STEM more broadly and to get them to be able to continue their journey in STEM just that little bit longer, however long that may be. So it's really about trying to do science, think scientifically, critically think about information and impart a few of those skills upon the students that are using our services. So our big selling point is that we have access to currently the world's biggest robotic telescope called the Liverpool Telescope. It's owned and operated by the university, and 10% of that time on the telescope is for schools to use completely for free, and that's the project that the National Schools Observatory manages. As well as the telescope time, we also have a bunch of resources on our website, so we're a completely online platform. All of the resources that we have are written by professional astronomers, professional scientists, professional engineers. We've been going for 18 years now as a project, and within that time we've had over 200,000 observation requests from schools to take images on the telescope and for them to do real science with those images. Currently, as of right now, we have over 1,000 teachers registered and 17,000 students, and they're predominantly across the UK and Ireland, but we do have users globally across the world. And the idea is that we act as a channel between the telescope and the students, the schools, as sort of an interface that gets the information to them in an easily digestible way, but also allows them to do science with the observations. So we don't just provide images, we provide data files, we provide FITS files, we provide free software for them to be able to analyse those images and do real science with them. So we act as this sort of interface between the schools, the students and the telescope. And alongside that kind of main hook of being able to take observations with a telescope, as I said, there's a whole bunch of online resources available on our website. So we're a remote project. We don't see our users, though we do have a champions group of teachers who give us feedback on everything. We are international. The website traffic actually is about only 45% UK and Ireland. The rest of the traffic comes from around the world. We have tailored activities, specifically looking at kind of the UK and Ireland curricula. So there are 5 different school curriculums within those nations, which we tailor our activities to. We have this Go Observe an interface, which is a really user-friendly way for schools to be able to talk to the telescope. Even as young as the primary school students can do this, no problem. And we have this bespoke software so that when they get data files back, they can easily interpret them without having to kind of dive into complicated or professional astronomy software that is just too off-putting for schools to use most of the time. Alongside that, we've got kind of a Learn library which has a bunch of information about all things to do with space, and we have a kind of Discovers activities section with lots of different things in, as well as teacher support and kind of careers information. So we try and offer a whole bunch of support around this idea of being able to use a telescope as well. So we're completely free. The main barriers to using our services is access to internet and a computer, which we understand is, you know, quite a barrier for some people, but we're trying to be as open as and accessible as possible. In terms of how we're doing, we've had several external evaluations. The most recent one was in 2020, and you know, we're trusted. We're known to provide high quality resources. We're known to provide good careers information, and both students and teachers really appreciate the ability to physically do science, especially with a subject like astronomy, which is sometimes quite, you know, ethereal when you're at school. This is practical stuff using real data, and the big thing that we're driving is it's the acquisition of the skills that go alongside that. And alongside, we also build confidence. We want to raise aspirations, as I said before, to get students to just think about that next step in their STEM journey, and to be able to, you know, be functioning citizens of the world who can think critically about information that they receive. So we've built this platform, and the question is then how do we use that? So we have kind of this 5-step process that we try and go through. You know, the big hook gets students to get and use real data. They develop the practical skills that'll go alongside that. They do some real science. They understand the career prospects that are associated with STEM subjects, and then we also raise their confidence and aspirations to take their journey forward. And being this interface between the schools and Telescope has been great. We've built this big platform. Now, you know, what do we do with it in terms of looking at climate science and sustainability? So why do we want to look at incorporating these subjects into our offering to schools? Well, you know, we all feel the weight of the climate emergency that we're currently in, and I don't need to tell the audience that's at this conference that the average astronomer and astronomy department's carbon footprint is significantly higher than the average person. So we must feel a responsibility associated with that. We have a long-standing ability to talk about data, to represent data, to get students handling data and become comfortable in understanding terminology around data, how to, you know, understand statistics, how to be able to critically review information, and we've got that experience. I think one of the other big things for astronomers in being able to talk about sustainability and climate science is that we come from things with a different perspective from a lot of what the other media that students will be hearing is. So we have quite unique views about our planet, about habitability and on different planets, and that's a different angle that not a lot of students hear about climate science from. So in terms of what we think the students will benefit from, our big thing really is to try and impart some knowledge and critical thinking around the subject, because a lack of knowledge about a subject is the same as having a barrier to engage. If you don't understand how to interpret the information you're given, then you've instantly got this barrier to want to engage with the issue. Another thing that astronomy often suffers from is that, you know, it's blue sky science, it's research that people don't see connected to their lives, and certainly for young people I think that's a big barrier. Whereas when you're talking about things to do with climate science, it's personal, it's a real world application to the information and the skills that we're trying to get across, and that puts people, you know, we can bring people into like the here and now. This is relevant to you today, and you know, if you can try and understand this and try and think critically about this, you can be part of the solution. So it provides these meaningful interactions, and it means that if you can get that information across and students feel more comfortable dealing with the subject, that it can also have an impact on their actions. I think simultaneously have an impact on astronomers' actions as well. Okay, so us engaging with young people around these topics makes people in the rest of the department maybe think a little bit more about their own personal impact and how they can also change their actions and how important that is. So it's good for us, it's good hopefully for the planet, it's good for the students, and we've built a platform that we can use to get this information across. So what are the challenges in doing this? Well, clearly we're talking about huge global phenomena, and we're trying to link that with their individual experience. And depending on what country you're from, depending on where you live, it's not always tangible for students to see that connection. How does this one thing that I do actually affect something much bigger? Also, a lot of the information around climate issues are clearly negative, and there's a lot of anxiety around it, and that can actually, when students hear so much negativity through the media, it can lead to them essentially being desensitized and not wanting to disengage from the subject. So that's a challenge as well. And also, teachers might not know how to talk about the subject. How can you bring something positive into the discussion? How can you talk about solutions instead of just problems all the time? So we try and approach that by, trying to directly communicate things around climate change, and also embed that into the way that the techniques that we use within how we put across our astronomy content. So in terms of how we do it, what we're trying to follow is some of these kind of well-known communication strategies. It's important not to get the information wrong. It's important to be really accurate about what we're talking about. And part of that actually comes from, engaging cross-curricularly with other research in other disciplines. So I job share with Emma, who will be in one of the discussion sessions, and the benefit of that is actually my background is astrophysics, but her background is biogeochemistry, and she has a lot more kind of research knowledge on current climate science than we would do traditionally. So even though we can read up on things, having that cross-disciplinary link really helps with the information, getting the information across. It's important not to be impartial. Don't sit on the fence about this, put across the information and put across the facts and the issues without trying to be impartial about it and stepping back from it. And there's techniques that you can use in terms of storytelling, which is a good communication technique that really embeds itself within people's psyche, and making things personal and here and now, and also information about how decision making actually occurs. So there's a few different techniques on how to get this across, and some examples of things that are really easy to do in astronomy to do this connection is things like focusing on habitability. So think about the Drake equation, how rare habitable planets actually are. Think about case studies around Venus and runaway greenhouse gas emissions and what that can do to the climate of a planet. We have a few specific resources looking at habitability. One is a mission to Mars. So it's really thinking about, okay, well, what would humans need to explore Mars? What are the challenges and the costs of terraforming? Food doesn't just appear in the supermarket. Where does that food come from? What is the carbon footprint of that food? And how could you try and take something like that and put it on a different planet? So we can talk a lot about that. There's obviously stuff in the media all the time about, rockets going to the moon, rockets going to Mars. It's a subject they'll be aware of anyway, but it's thinking about it in a different way and actually thinking back on, how what would be the costs of doing this versus, for example, the costs of preventing climate collapse on Earth, and the ethics involved with it as well. We have another one for younger students that looks at life on Earth, so specifically what makes Earth special. We link it to things like ecosystems, connections between all life on Earth, and we introduce the idea around the habitable zone, how we look for life on other planets, biomarkers in atmospheres, and again, the specialness of the Earth, the rarity of the Earth, and how we can think about our Earth as something that we should be treasuring and trying to protect. We also can focus on the politics side. So some of the resources we have on our website currently is looking at what we call space debates. So this is thinking about effective communication, actually researching topics, listening to others, and asking big questions like, should humans colonize Mars? Would you rather be the first human on Mars or the last human on Earth? Would we just export the same mistakes we've made on Earth to a different planet? So these are quite big questions that students can get engaged with answering, and doing some research and really being able to effectively communicate points. These are just a few examples. There's also things like thinking outside the box. So we're coming up with, we do a primary school Christmas talk every year. This year's is online. There's over 14,000 students signed up to come to it, and we've called it Snow Place Like Home, and it's an alien snow person who's trying to find a new planet because theirs has become uninhabitable because it's too hot. So we talk about the solar system, the different places in the solar system, and again, what makes Earth special and why we need to try and protect Earth and stop the same mistakes happening here. So there's lots of different ways that we're trying to think about it, and that was a bit of a whistle stop. I hope it's all okay. As I said, Emma and I will be around for the discussion sessions as well, so please do, contact us, get in touch. We'd love to share ideas, to share advice, and I hope you found it beneficial. So I will leave it there, but the importance is that we can try and get this information across so that people can understand what's going on. When they understand it, then they'll try to make changes, hopefully. So that's our perspective on this, and I hope it's added something for you. Thanks very much.